Around 10 a.m., a couple with their 4 years kid approached me. They both looked well-educated and gentle. I was back from night shift and wasn't really willing to waste my time. But the guy assured that he will tell his story as quick as possible. He started. I work as a medical representative at a well-known company. Most of the time I am on business travel. I hardly get time to spend with my family. I rented a row house in, again, one of the well-known societies. When I am out of home, there is no one at home except my wife and kid. Though rent is pretty high, but I pay to ensure my family's safety in my absence. Couple of weeks ago, when I was on a business tour, my wife called me at 1:30 a.m. She was scared. She said that there is someone in the house. I was shocked and surprised. I asked her to call the security of our society. Our society is always guarded by professional security agency. They responded to her call quickly. They searched entire house but couldn't find anyone else. But my wife couldn't sleep that night. Couple of days ago, my wife called me again in the midnight. This time she was crying. She said that she can't live in that house even for a minute. We have good relations with our next-door neighbor. They agreed to let her stay in their house till I return. And now I am here. I asked the lady to explain her experience and why she is not willing to stay in that house. She told the story. I woke up that night feeling thirsty. I went to kitchen to grab a glass of water. While going to kitchen, I noticed someone or something sitting or squatting in the dark corner of our living room. I was scared to death. I ran to bedroom, closed the door from inside and called my husband. Later, security guards arrived quickly and they searched the room but nothing could be found. I always go to buy vegetables around 7 p.m. That day, as usual, Arnav, her kid, and I went for shopping. We returned around 8 o'clock. When I entered in the living room, again I noticed something in the same dark corner. I switched lights on and next moment, it was just an empty corner like 3 others. I decided to close the door of bedroom and not to get out till morning. Arnav sleeps with me. After dinner we went to bed. Even I am sleeping, I always keep groping the bed to make sure that Arnav is near me. I woke up with a jerk that night when I couldn't feel Arnav near me. I turned on lights. No. Arnav was not even in the room. Door was ajar open. I ran out and got spellbound by what I saw. Arnav was crawling in the living room though he is 4. He was moving like a blind worm, hitting sofa walls, and finally he advanced to the same corner where I saw something was sitting. I wanted to scream but my throat went dry. I wanted to move and drag him back to the bedroom but I was like paralyzed. Arnav reached to that corner and paused. I saw something started forming. It was like coming out of the wall. A darker matter than dark. It was forming slowly like a human or more close to a chimp. I was helpless, couldn't move, couldn't scream. I think it was being shown to me what they wanted to show. Formation completed. I could hear Arnav now growling like a wild animal and making some weird hand signals at that. At some point of time, my ability to move restored. I screamed and darted towards Arnav, picked him up and rushed out of the house. Then I called my husband and said that I can't live in that house even for a minute. She was sobbing and about to cry. I assured them that we will visit his property next morning. I called my other 2 friends and we visited his house around 10 a.m. In the beginning, we couldn't find anything unusual that we can point finger at. We asked a lot of questions to find if we get any clue or hint. During this Q&A session, we asked that if they have brought anything new or used recently. Arnav's parents said that they bought nothing special rather than daily groceries, medicines, etc. But Arnav's mother remembered something and went inside the bedroom. She came out with a broken, dirty and rusted toy car in her hand. Arnav found this somewhere, though this is not so appealing, but he loves it and does not let it be out of his sight. That toy car wasn't manufactured recently. These toy cars were manufactured back in 1980s. Where and how did Arnav get it from? Who that car belonged to in the past? We requested them to hand over that toy to us and told them to contact us if they experience anything paranormal. Arnav's dad confirmed that his family is all good now. A few years back I was dating this girl. She told me her parents' house was haunted. Skeptical as I was, I thought she was playing with me. Then she told me that she had an evil second persona who would sometimes take over her body and damage her physically. She would wake up bleeding, totally oblivious of how she got those cuts and what just happened. I thought this was just her way of trying to get attention and help. I didn't really believe her story, although I tried to help and comfort her in any way I could. All of that changed when I started sleeping over because strange things would almost always occur at night. These experiences all occurred when my ex and me, and usually the dog, were alone in the house. It started with her laptop randomly turning on in the middle of the night and actually logging into my ex's account. Shortly after, I started to hear things as well. Footsteps coming from the ceiling/roof, right above the bed we slept in. Not a ticking sound like a mouse makes, but actual thuds. Like a human was casually walking circles on the roof. A few days after, I heard a dog barking downstairs. The family dog was a boxer, but I heard a high-pitched arf, instead of a low ruff. I went downstairs but saw nothing special. The boxer was sleeping peacefully in his kennel in the kitchen. I returned to the bedroom and saw my ex in bed, sitting up straight and with both arms bleeding. I had seen with fresh wounds before, so that was nothing new for me. Really sad to see, but nothing new. What startled me to death is that she had her eyes closed like she was still sleeping, but her mouth was wide and open as if she was screaming her lungs out. But she wasn't. Needless to say, I didn't sleep anymore that night. A few nights later we were in bed sleeping together again, and woke up to my ex trying to climb over me, mumbling "break glass." As the situations in that house were starting to freak me out, I felt the urge to protect myself. I grabbed my ex by the shoulders and yelled, "What are you or whoever else trying to do?" My ex woke up, but a second we heard a loud tack and the sound of glass breaking in the kitchen. I went downstairs to look and saw the locked cupboard wide open, and on the floor shards of what used to be 2 long drink glasses. Cleaned up the mess, walked back upstairs and found my ex sleeping as if nothing had happened. Shortly after, we broke up and some strange things happened to me, but nothing like this. But it did get me interested in spirituality and what else is with us. When my dad died in 1979, it was sudden and without warning. He was entering his bedroom to lay down and take a nap. My aunt and I heard the thud when he hit the small rocking chair and then the floor. I looked at him and knew that he was dead before he hit the floor. His routine used to start each morning at 5 o'clock. He got out of bed, dressed, then walked through the living room, through the small swinging doors into the kitchen. He would go over to the chair between the small table and kitchen counter, plug in his coffee pot, sit down and wait for the first cup to brew. When he pulled the chair out, it always made a slight scraping sound. After the funeral, I stayed on for a while in the back bedroom, just down a short hallway. The first time it happened, I wasn't sure how to react, nor if it had even really happened. 5 o'clock in the morning, I came awake with the realization that someone was in the house. I could hear footsteps on the other side. I crept out of bed, grabbed the flashlight and tried to silently head toward the living room. The telephone was there and I could call the police. When I got there, no one was there. I searched the house over. No one. I went back to bed thinking it had been a dream. I was also coming down with influenza and figured that I had hallucinated. 3 nights later, 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm awake listening to footsteps. I had just gotten out of bed when I heard the swinging doors into the kitchen. I managed to sneak down the short hallway. Flipped on the light and nothing. Okay, this went on for the rest of the week until finally I just lay in bed, listening to the sounds, and then it took a horrific turn. I heard the chair at the table scrape out, and then the smell of brewing coffee filled the air. I could even hear the coffee pot brewing. I just lay there in bed, not knowing what to think, trying to not to start screaming. Well, I'll never know. And then after a few minutes, there was silence and no coffee smell. This went on for 3 nights. I called a friend of mine to come over and spend the night. I told him that I was just trying to recover from Dad's death and needed someone around. He agreed. He woke me the next morning a few minutes after 5. "Billy," he whispered, "there's someone in the house." I calmed him down and told him to just sit on the bed and wait. And sure enough, we heard footsteps into the kitchen, the scrape of the chair, and then the strong smell of brewing coffee. He quietly followed me in the dark to the kitchen. I turned on the light, nothing. The coffee pot was not on, the chair hadn't been moved. The next move was quick and decisive. Robert was dressing, heading out the bedroom door entrance to the outside. "I don't know what's going on here and I don't give a fuck, I'm outta here." After 2 more days of the visits, I walked into the kitchen, stood in the middle of the floor and shouted, "Dad, you can't keep doing this. You're dead. You died. Please, I love you and I miss you, but please go away. Go wherever you're supposed to go. I can't keep going through this with you." And then I broke down and cried like a baby. The visit stopped at that moment. No more. I've often wondered if sometimes when we die, if it is monstrously sudden, do we realize that we're dead? Do we try to continue on as if nothing out of the way has happened? Do we have to be told that we're dead and we need to move on? I don't know the answer to these questions. But I do know what I experienced, and I know that Robert would never set foot in the house again. And he would never talk about that morning. I've had more than my share of paranormal experiences, and pretty much all of them have left me shaken. This will be one of those experiences. When I was about 21 or 22, my sister had asked me to pick her up from her house and drop her to work, and since I had nothing better to do, I obliged. The house was a beautiful 3-story house that was close to 100 years old at the time. When I got there, I parked on the street in front and went inside. My sister was upstairs having a shower, so I walked into the dining room and sat on one of the chairs facing the entrance to the kitchen. I was probably sitting there for about 5 minutes when I suddenly noticed a woman with blonde hair, in a white nightgown, running from the staircase to my direction, and a man with brown hair and a 1970s cornstarch running behind her. They were both see-through. The woman ran to the doorway that led to the kitchen and had her back up against the wall right by the doorway. She was facing me at this point, and the man had pinned her against the wall by placing his hands on the wall on either side of her head. At this point, she reached around the doorway into the kitchen and grabbed either a knife or scissors from a table that isn't actually there, and tried to stab him. He grabbed it out of her hand, stabbed her a bunch of times, and when she fell, he ran out the door. When I looked back, the woman was gone. When I looked back at the door I just watched the man run out of, the door was closed. I calmly stood up, walked to the bottom of the stairs and yelled, "Steph, I'm going to go wait in the car." Then sat in my car and proceeded to freak out by what I saw. I still don't know what happened, but it definitely had a lasting impact on me. I do, however, wonder if a woman really was murdered in that house, and if I just witnessed something that happened years prior.